Good morning. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. And this morning we have Charter Moms Chats to talk about a new organization called Texas Families First. And our guest is Starr, who's the Chief Program Officer for Families Empowered, which is a 501c3 organization. And Texas Families First is a 501c4 organization. So they're focused on advocacy and parents telling their stories about school choice. So Anne's going to tell us more about Texas Families First, and then we have a new blog post publishing on the blog today at schartermoms.com that was written by Colleen Dipple, who's the founder of Families Empowered and is also leading Texas Families First. So I'm really excited to be, helping spread the word about Texas Families First. So welcome, Anne. Thanks for being here. Oh, and Anne's visiting us from Austin.
Yes. So yes, thank you so much. I am also a proud charter school mom. My kids go to NIOS Charter School here in Austin. But yes, I'm super excited to have this opportunity to talk with you. And of course, Families Empowered has long partnered with San Antonio Charter Moms to just really empower families. That's what Families Empowered does, is to make sure that families across Texas, but mostly in the San Antonio, Austin, and Houston areas, to know all about all the options they have for schools. So we certainly love charter schools, but we also talk about private schools and traditional district schools, homeschooling, kind of really anything that will put more power and awareness with the families, because we're all about Texas Families First. So that's why we decided to launch this new 501c4 organization, which allows us to elevate the voices of the families that we've been working with at Families Empowered for over 10 years now. We like to say that we have been listening to families' voices, and we believe very much that families are the experts and they know what's right for their kids. So we feel like it's time that lawmakers and decision makers also hear families' voices and that they have a bigger seat at the table.
Yeah, that's really important. So one question I want to ask you is sort of what is the sort of the problem or the need that you felt was important to address? Why it was important to create Texas Families First as the C4 organization, right, to complement what Families Empowered has been doing for a long time.
Right. Well, Families Empowered is all about providing free, unbiased support to families. I mean, we're never going to stop doing that. But it also, as a 501c3 organization, we couldn't do all of the advocacy for specific issues that we would want to do. So we have been, over the last 10 years at Families Empowered, asked often by some of the families that we're working with and other people that just are passionate about making sure that there are more options for families when it comes to their schooling. They've been asking us, like, hey, we know you have great relationships with almost 100,000 families at this point, and we need their stories, we need their voices. So this Texas Families First was a way for us to, again, elevate those families' voices and make sure that the schools now work for them versus families just kind of working on their own school choice information. So that's super important with Families Empowered, but Texas Families First allows us to really dig in and advocate for our families and make sure, again, that their voices are heard.
Yeah, I think a key element of what you said was, right, so like SH Hormones does this, Families Empowered does this, of communicating with families about what options are out there, right, all the different options, and helping them find them. But there's sort of another, that sort of assumes that there's this fixed set of schools or fixed set of options. But what we really need is, I mean, there's still families on waiting lists, right? There's still families trying to get into the school they need, or maybe they want a school of choice, but it hasn't come to their part of town yet, or they don't have transportation to get there. So as a sort of longer term project, we need to change the landscape, right? So we need to keep expanding the range of choice options that families have, right? And so I think that's a key element of what, or is that right? Is that Texas Families First?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we really, at the end of the day, want to advocate for policies and school systems and structures that are more student-centered. That's really what it's about, designing schools and working with school leaders and families in a way that really puts the student at the center of that. And that's the thing that I fell in love with at NIOS Charter School, and a reason that I was so passionate about and lucky enough, honestly, to get my kids in through the lottery that we applied for. But I do know that there are thousands of families that just didn't get as lucky as we did. And that's why I and everybody else I work with at Texas Families First and Families Empowered is so passionate about this. We want all families to have options, especially families that are more resource constrained and may not have access to technology, or English might not be their first language. Those families are also experts in their kids and also, in their education, and deserve just as much as anybody else access to schools that work for them and for their families. So you're right, we do want to push for more options, more autonomy for schools to be able to choose the design that's going to work best for the families. And again, making sure that parents' voices are heard from the beginning when schools are being designed and planned. We want to make sure that families aren't just an afterthought, but that they are key in the conversation. So again, making sure that lawmakers and bureaucrats and all those folks are not just paying lip service to listening to families, but really involving them. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. We also are seeing that certainly with the pandemic and the situation that we're all dealing with in one way or another as parents now, with distance learning and the confusion about schools starting and the lack of just the ability to kind of know what end is up. We've been working extra hard at Families Empowered to make sure families know what their options are and how to access them. But it's a time when families are maybe more than normally in other times would be aware that, maybe things aren't so great at the school where I've been sending my kid, or, hey, there are some options, or maybe, what the school is presenting to me is not going to work best for my child for whatever reason. And we don't pretend to judge if that family's decision for not wanting that school is good or bad. That's not up to us. It's about making sure that we kind of capture the momentum at the time right now, which is another reason we thought it would be wise to launch Texas Families First now, because it's a way to hopefully engage more families, people that might advocate for greater options for their kids because of what they're seeing now with the pandemic than we would normally be experiencing.
Yeah, well, some key things about what you just said. There are a lot of good points, but a few things in particular. One was you said that we need more student-centered education. I think that's right. Something that we both see, which is when it's very easy for organizations that have inertia to kind of focus on the system and preserving their system and how they're used to doing things. Yeah. But if that's not serving students, right? If the outcomes aren't working, if the students aren't reading or doing math on grade level, if the students, if the delivery systems aren't working, right? And COVID has put so much stress on that. And so if the system's not working, the system needs to change, because the ultimate purpose is helping the students get to where they need to go, right? Which is having a great education and having choices about going to college or having a great career.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you should join us, Inga. We're really just getting started now, kind of crafting the platform, if you will, that we want to promote. That it will definitely involve, as we're just getting going, hearing from families right now. So like one of the things we're doing is to encourage families that have a story to tell to share it with us. And we will make sure that their story is heard by decision makers and by other advocacy organizations that are kind of advocating for the same types of school choice options that we would encourage people to entertain. So so we have a Facebook page. I want to make sure to talk about that. You can look us up at Texas Families First. There is, and you can email me too if you want to get in touch. My email is Starr with 2 R's at familiesempowered.org. And I'm sure we can put that in the chat at some point. Yeah, I'll let you do that.
I'm gonna make a banner, which I should have done before we were on the air, but we were having such a good conversation.
Yeah.
But okay, so this is the Facebook page, right? So,
thank you.
So definitely go visit the page, like the page. So I'm going to add to the description a link to the blog post that we're publishing today at SC Turnaround, and that blog post has great links you can follow. So you can click through and get to the Facebook page that way. There's a phone number with a 210 area code that gets you in touch with Families Empowered. So if you're a family who has a story to share, right, they could,
Yes.
yeah, so they can reach through the Facebook page. And then, okay, you mentioned your email, so I can add that to the,
yeah, please.
Okay, you keep talking while I type, okay? Wait, was it your Families Empowered email that you shared, or do you have a different?
Yeah,
okay.
Like we hope to launch the Texas Family's First website in the coming weeks. But I want to be careful not to put out any wrong URLs there. Check with the brilliant colleagues that I work with, my organization. So probably safest just to email me. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So we really are in the phase right now where we are hoping to rally families, get connected to people that do want to be part of this movement. Of course, the 2021 legislative session will look very differently, as we all know. So it remains to be seen how we will really be able to advocate and connect with folks. But we fortunately are part of several networks of like-minded organizations that we will absolutely lean on and leverage their expertise and their kind of connections to move forward with unity as much as we can. Yeah,
it's amazing what like there's a whole like, so, like, well, your kids play video games, right? My kids play video games. We talk about leveling up, right? So I feel like there's different ways you can sort of level up as an advocate, right? And like, like a basic thing is like, I feel like everybody needs to register to vote, right? And to vote, like that's like step one, right? Is make sure you're doing that, right? So like, and know what districts you're in, and know how those people vote on education issues, right? So you exercising your right to vote is super important. But then there's more, right? So like on the SHR Moms blog, we're planning to have weekly like parent perspective stories where we talk to parents and they share about their school choice journey and like why they chose what they chose. And being willing to, it's very personal, right? I mean, making decisions about schools is so close to a parent's heart. And I think every time, I'm sure this happened to you too. Like when I chose a charter school for my kids, there were people in my neighborhood who are like, why would you do that? Like, our neighborhood has great schools, which they are great schools for most kids. They just weren't the right fit for my kids, especially my son with special needs. So it's like, and something you said earlier, which I strongly agree with, is like, every family's making their decision, and it's not my place to judge, why they want to move their kid from one school to another. Like, they know their family the best, and that's true wherever they are on the income spectrum. So we just give them the tools so that they can make the best decision, knowing their kids as best they do. So, but yeah, did you feel like you got some static when you moved your kids to a charter school?
Not too terribly much. I just come from a family that really honestly did not focus much on education. I'm a first generation college graduate, and just my community and my family was pretty disconnected from school, and it was up to me as a student growing up, and my siblings too, to kind of advocate for ourselves, honestly. So I think I am somebody that is going to do what's best for me and my family, no matter what. So maybe I just wasn't listening too much to the noise. But I think I'm in a good place now with like-minded community of people that's going to be like, nope, it's parents that know what's most important. They are the people we're going to listen to, and you can have an opinion, and that's totally okay if it's different than mine. But yeah, I think that's the exciting thing about Texas Families First, is that we are not going to stand up and say this model of education is better than this one. It really is, like it is with Families Empowered, about more choice and more options. We would love to see things, for example, like micro grants given directly to families to help them with educational costs, which of course this year could be pretty exorbitant when it comes, especially if you have a child with special needs. They need some extra support, perhaps tutoring, equipment. So that's one of the things that we would love to see. Again, it's a more student-centered formula or model, right? Where you're kind of equipping families and trusting them to use those dollars the best way. but we're not going to advocate for one model over another. It really is about making sure families get the opportunity to choose the option that's best for them. But as you said, sometimes those options literally aren't there. So we also are going to be in this for the long haul and working for as long as it takes to make sure that schools are designed from the get-go in a way that hears families' voices, and that as innovations are being considered and reforms are being considered, at even traditional schools or in the private school space or in homeschooling or whatever it is, that parents' voices are front and center and how those decisions get made. So that's really what it's all about. Yeah. One thing I'd love to mention is that an important piece of both these organizations is reaching families in a way that works for them. So that means that we have a bilingual call center staff with Families Empowered, and some of whom we absolutely expect to leverage and work with to connect with families that speak Spanish only. Several of us on staff are bilingual. And we feel like that's really important to have native speakers, actually real people, answering the phones and connecting with folks and hearing and talking with families. So one of the first stories that we got in response to our call for people to share pandemic stories was from a Spanish-speaking family here in the Austin area. And so, yeah, we were able to hear her story entirely in Spanish and be able to translate it into English for other folks that need it in that language. So just an example of the way in which we hope to design this organization from the ground up in a way that really does involve all types and all kinds of parents.
That was my cue to put the phone number up on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Please call or reach out. Yes.
Yeah, and great to know that it's bilingual. Although this video isn't bilingual, but I know sometimes on the Facebook page, you guys have had some great interviews, like the one about private school choice. Like Julie Dvorak, and then I'm blanking on her name, but she's with the sort of the Association of for Private Schools for Texas. Like that was a great talk. So that's a really good reason why, I encourage everybody who's watching this video, go like the Texas Families First Facebook page, because then you'll have access to, you'll get notifications of when they have, these really interesting talks and guests and, the events happening there.
Yeah, like you, we've definitely found that doing videos like this is a great way to inform people. We have a Families Empowered has a YouTube channel too, where we're posting all those videos. If people, I guess I'm talking to an audience that's on Facebook, so it might not be a big deal.
This video is going out on both, so I'll edit the description of the on the YouTube. Where this video posts on YouTube, I'll put the link in for Families Empowered, so you can follow that as well.
Yeah,
this brave new world of technology.
I know. Making sure we leverage these great videos and information to get it out to as many people as possible, which is what I know we're both all about. So yeah, we have several videos with Texas Families First and also Families Empowered on everything from experts in the private school community, the CEO of the Texas Homeschool Coalition. We had a great session with him that was really exciting. And then lots of conversations with school leaders. So families can learn about specific schools, certainly in the San Antonio area. And then, as I said, also some schools in Austin and Houston we feature too. But yeah, lots of content there. And some videos entirely in Spanish with our family success specialists. We just did one earlier this week with them all in Spanish so that folks can get to know them and hear from their perspective. They're the call center folks that I mentioned.
Yeah, they're a great group. It's been a few months, but I remember doing like a training just to talk about because on the San Antonio, we have a lot of data about San Antonio schools on our website, and so I was able to show them the tools that we have, so they can use that data to help families. And it's great that they, that gives it that personal touch, how they can really talk to people and listen to their stories, and then give them action steps that they can take.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, you mentioned the micro grants and some of the other sort of ideas or sort of potential policies that Texas Families First might advocate for. And like you said, it's early days and you guys are still hammering out, but one of the things in that list talked about competency-based education, where it's not so much relying on seat time and hours or minutes or days spent in the classroom, but different ways to measure how much progress students are making. So I was wondering if you could kind of comment more on that, because I think that's an idea that's especially relevant right now, as our lives are so disrupted. How do we
Right.
know that we're really making progress?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there's a whole lot kind of within that phrase, student-centered education. And it means different things to different people, but it really is about exploring ways to measure how well students are doing that get away from this idea that as long as they're sitting in a chair and they're just there for a specific number of hours a day, then that equals success in learning. I think the pandemic, I know, has shown lots of us that that is not necessarily true. Different kids learn in different ways and have different needs in terms of instruction. My kids are teenagers. I have a 8th grader and an 11th grader, 2 sons who, you are right, Inga, play a lot of video games. So, but they've been doing fine with their 100% online learning. NIOS is more of a year-round calendar, and they started at the end of July. So my kids have been in school. This is their 4th week now. And it's not ideal, but it's working just fine for them, but yeah, so I see their school, the whole model is designed around what's going to work best for the kids. So for example, that year-round schedule that my kids' school enjoys, I would say, is a reflection of this is what's going to work best for students. There's less learning loss during breaks because the breaks are shorter. They still have the same number of kind of days in school as their traditional ISD student counterparts do. But that's just an example of more student-centered methodology, really just saying kind of what's going to work best. So for them, that also means small class size. Oh, thanks for putting up NIOS. Yeah. Can't say enough about that amazing school.
I remember going to the Texas Charter Schools conference, and there was this a speaker. They were giving an award to NIOS, and I was like, what are these? And then it was like, oh, it's an acronym. It's like not your ordinary school. And then it's like, exactly until I'm a very visual person, and until I actually saw it, I was like, that's what they're saying. So okay, for the sake of the readers, it's like, here you go. Yes.
And
but
still debate is
like
it's NIOS or NIOS. We don't know. We love it no matter what. Yeah. I mean, but I feel so fortunate that my children get to go to a school that is smaller, more autonomous, that really gets to know each student and their learning needs, that checks in with them on a regular basis, that has been as thoughtful as they possibly can about the virtual learning, knowing that it's not ideal and knowing that it simply does not work for some students. So especially students that don't have access to technology like we are fortunate enough to have in my house. So all these kinds of things we want all families to be able to enjoy. So that's what the student-centered education to me means. And we'll see what it means to the families that choose to get involved with us and that lend their voice to this cause. Because that's my story and my family. But as we've said, that might not be what it means to other people. So we want to hear from you.
Yeah. But I think the thing we can agree on is that we do need change, and that it needs to come from parents, and like you said earlier, that it's not okay just for the elected officials or the bureaucrats to sort of pretend that they're listening. That we really need to get through to them, and it's going to take more numbers and more stories, and so much so that the parents can't be ignored.
Right. That's the plan, right. Yeah. So please do share your story if you're listening to this and you have, even if you don't feel like it's a big deal, just your regular story of kind of what life has been like navigating the educational system during the pandemic. And if you're asking yourself questions that you've never really asked before, like how much is my student learning in school every day for all those hours, and is it the right things? Are they being challenged enough or perhaps not enough? So all kinds of questions that we hear parents asking more and more now because they are now being asked to be teachers too, in almost all situations in some way. Yeah, so we're seeing the reality of what our children have been dealing with for a long time. And some schools, as we know, have been better about connecting with families and parents through all this than others. But it's just about really, so yeah, if you have a story to share, please share it, even if you think it's not a big deal, even if it's not in English, all those things. We want to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, there's lots of ways to get in touch. So, right, so like they could visit the Facebook page, they can send a message through the Facebook page, right, for my or for folks who are on Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube or you're just not comfortable with Facebook, you can email Anne, right, astarr@familiesempowered.org. This number it's the San Antonio number, but it gets you in touch with the family specialist,
family success specialist.
Family success specialist. Okay, right.
So there's real people answering the phone in 2 languages. Yeah.
Yeah, bilingual. Yeah, and they are very caring people. They're good listeners. And yeah.
So that's
yeah.
Criteria number 1 for when we're bringing on family success specialists, like be a native Spanish speaker and care a lot about families, right? And I know for sure our amazing family success specialists all have those 2 qualities very well in hand.
Yeah. Well, and are there any? I think we covered all the questions that I wanted to ask you, but is there any kind of like closing thoughts? Or my thought is I'm just really excited to see this launch, and I'm looking forward to like more. Like you said, there are multiple organizations that work to expand school choice for families in Texas, and I'm looking forward to like more teamwork and more collaboration, as you know, because we all have common goals in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be very excited to work with you and anybody that's part of the SA Charter Mom Network. You are part of our community, and if you have a story to tell, we are at your service to lift that story up and make sure folks hear it. So if you connect with us on our Facebook page, that's probably the best way to be informed of updates. So when we launch the website, which will have opportunities for people to kind of say, this are the kinds of things I'm interested in, or I do want to advocate and find out which legislators I might need to connect with or send a message to. All those kinds of things we will have available on the new website. So we just, again, want to be thoughtful about how we get it started. So now we're welcoming parent stories to inform our work, because we, of course, that's what we're all about. So.
Yeah. Making it student-centered and lifting up parent voices.
Exactly. And we really are at least Families Empowered is the only organization that is a parent service organization in the state of Texas working in this space. So that's another reason why we just felt it was really important for us to launch Texas Families First now, because we have the wonderful opportunity and the gift of the conversations we've had with so many, almost 100,000 parents or families in Texas at this point. We want to make sure that we've heard their voices for so long, so it's time for other people to hear them.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited, and I encourage the members of the San Antonio Charter Moms community who are watching this video that please follow the Texas Families First page and reach out to them to share your story.
Good deal. Well, thank you so much, Inga. This has been fun.
Thank you, Anne. I look forward to talking to you, and someday we'll get to meet face to face.
I know. Someday we'll talk about video game recommendations for our kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.